Good morning and welcome to Rising. We have a big show for you today. Robbie, what do we have?
Jennifer Holdsworth-Karp and Malika Abdul will be here to discuss the devastating tornadoes that took place over the weekend, and Batya Ungar-Sargon discusses Fox News veteran Chris Wallace's pivot to CNN. Plus, Hypocrisy weighs in on the dynamics between the U.S. and Israel over the U.S.'s handling of Iran. But first, attorneys for environmental lawyer Steven Donziger revealed that Donziger will serve the remaining 6 months of his sentence for contempt of court at home under a pandemic-era early release program. Friends of the show, Brianna Joy Gray, Katie Halper, Marianne Williamson, and former Rising host Crystal Ball led a live stream over the weekend in support of Donziger. Following his release, he posted a photo to Twitter of him and his son saying, quote, "I feel so fortunate to be able to return so soon to the most important young man in my life." So this is great news. We're very happy about this, obviously. Even aside from the facts of the case, which we've discussed here a lot, there's no reason that someone who poses no risk to society, no risk of danger or harm, is being imprisoned in the midst of a pandemic and the horrible conditions. I'm glad that the government is prioritizing releasing people who don't really need to be in prison right now, and probably should just generally do that.
Yes, exactly. Do that more generally. But yeah, this was a COVID release based on the CARES Act that allows the federal prisons to take people's health implications into consideration, and so he'll serve the 4 months that remain on his 6-month contempt sentence. In house arrest. He was in house arrest already for like 2 years.
Right.
This is purely a vindictive sentence. Like the judge despises the guy. Donziger despises the judge, but with plenty of reason at this point. But the judge famously asked to have a contempt investigation done into, and asked him to be prosecuted for not turning over materials, related to the case, the Chevron case that he was involved with, and the Department of Justice said, no, we're not going to take this up. We're not going to prosecute another attorney. And so then the judge went out and, in an extraordinarily rare move, found a private firm, which had done business with Chevron, of course, because they all have, found a private firm that would be deputized with the powers of the state to prosecute this case, because he did not want to give up. He just relentlessly pursued him. They went after his law license. There were a lot of people who looked at this and said, there's no reason that this person should be disbarred for this. Here, like, you can disagree with what happened, but here, nothing was done in bad faith here. But it has gone from what it was to now an extremely personal test of will between the judge and Donziger. He has the power of the state behind him. And I imagine he's fuming that he's not able to keep him locked up anymore.
Yeah, but we're glad. Rising can take full credit for this, because obviously our community, our friends, and people, guests on the show, a lot of former hosts. That was what did it. No, it was actually just this pandemic program, but whatever it takes is fine.
Independent media has been the only source.
People covering this.
And he has said this, that Jake Tapper did a segment on him. To Jake Tapper's credit, if anybody in the mainstream media is going to do it, it'll probably be Jake Tapper.
Right.
Other than him doing one segment, I don't think anybody has even touched this insane case.
Incredible.
So a British court has ruled, speaking of which, that Julian Assange can be extradited to the U.S. to face espionage charges, reversing an earlier judgment. If convicted, Assange faces 175 years for publishing classified documents. Over the weekend, doctors confirmed that Assange suffered a stroke on the morning of his latest hearing. His fiancée, Stella Morris, believes the stroke was triggered by the stress of his ongoing legal battles. Here's Morris on National Human Rights Day speaking about the injustices taking place against Assange. Let's watch.
He has been detained since the 7th of December 2010 in one form or another, 11 years. For how long can this go on? Today is International Human Rights Day. What a shame. How cynical. To have this decision on this day, to have one of the foremost publisher, journalist, of the past 50 years in a UK prison, accused of publishing the truth about war crimes, about CIA kill teams. And in fact, every time we have a hearing, we know more about the abusive nature, the criminal nature of this case. Julian exposed the crimes of CIA torturers, of CIA killers, and now we know that those CIA killers were planning to kill him too.
Critics are zeroing in on President Biden's handling of the situation as well. As Glenn Greenwald notes, the Biden DOJ's ongoing attempt to extradite and prosecute Assange is a grave threat to press freedom. Glenn's sentiment on Assange were echoed by MSNBC's Mehdi Hasan. Let's watch.
And if you don't think the Biden administration following in the footsteps of Trump's on this issue is a huge mistake, if you don't think a future Trump administration won't use and leverage and weaponize this precedent of Democrats in power going after Assange to go after the rest of us in the quote-unquote mainstream media, or the fake news media as they call it, well, you're more trusting than I am. Dangerous precedents are being set, and we journalists cannot afford to look away or pretend it's nothing to do with us. Look, again, I am no fan of Julian Assange as a person. I'm appalled that he decided to suck up to the Trump family, or that he wouldn't give the women who accused him of sexual assault their day in court. But you don't have to like Assange or WikiLeaks to be very, very concerned about the action against him that the Biden administration is taking. To borrow a line from Noam Chomsky, if we don't believe in freedom of expression for people we despise, we don't believe in it at all. To reiterate, going after the publisher of information that a government deems classified or secret is a pretty illiberal and authoritarian thing to do. It's wrong when Trump did it, and it's wrong when Biden does it.
There'll be a rally today in New York City at noon at the British consulate to protest his extradition. And so I think what's important about Mehdi's, and get your take on this, I think what's important about Mehdi's take is that in order for Assange and for press freedom generally to have the kind of broad-based support that it needs in the culture to remain in place, you need not just support from people who like the person and like what was reported. That's easy. You need people who don't like what was said to say, you know what, I don't like him, I don't like what he did, but I defend his right to do it. And that seems to be the thing that's missing the most. And a lot of people will probably just attack Mehdi for saying that he doesn't like Assange. It's like, well, have that fight separately. Right. That's not what matters at this point. What matters now is, do you support his right to say it, no matter who he is or what he says?
Well, that used to be the easiest thing for progressives to do, right? That's the old ACLU line. The Nazis want to march through the town. It is in no way, shape, or form an endorsement of Nazism or the things that Nazis believe to say that, yes, they enjoy that First Amendment right, and we will defend that if the city or the town or whatever tries to shut it down, we will defend them. That used to be a ironclad thing on the left, on the sort of progressive liberal side of things, and it's been eroded. And I mean, both sides just want to defend the rights and protections and freedoms of people they like and agree with. Is the world we increasingly live in, and it's a very frustrating one for people who like civil liberties in general, for people who don't fall neatly into one category or the other, because it is so pick your side and then just defend your side and attack the other side. Right.
And Mehdi knows his audience well. He has a lot of kind of mainstream Democrats watching MSNBC, and so I think he did a really good job. People should watch the entire thing of trying to shape the argument for that audience, saying like, look, I know you're upset about 2016. He's not charged, and Mehdi said this explicitly, he's not charged for anything related to 2016. Nothing. He's not charged for leaking Russian whatever. Right. You can be mad about it. This is America. You can be mad about whatever you want. But that's not what the charge is. The charge is he leaked evidence of war crimes that was provided by Chelsea Manning. And he published it. He didn't leak it, he published it. That's what he's being charged with. And Mehdi says, look, if you didn't like it when Trump did it, you shouldn't like it when Biden does it. And that's, to me, that is the most clearly stated principle you can have.
I can do it right now. I'm not on Mehdi's side broadly. I don't like his show. I don't agree with almost anything he says. In fact, I strongly disagree with well beyond the average of his takes on social media, on his show. Not a big fan, am I, of this hour of news programming, but I agree about that Julian Assange should not be prosecuted, and I'm glad he's calling attention to it. There are not enough people in mainstream or progressive media talking about, or in any media, except for us. We're the only ones talking about it. Again, just like Donziger, not quite the only ones, but few people talking about it. It needs to be discussed because everyone's freedom of speech rights, press freedom rights, and there's no such thing as a journalist. There's no exclusive right to be a journalist. Anyone engaged in collecting information and trying to educate the public is a journalist and should have have the right to let the people know about the things the government is trying to hide from them. This was information the American people deserve to have, and he should not be punished for telling us about it.
Yep. Robby, Glenn, Mehdi, me, all on the same page.
All on the same page on this. Doesn't often happen.
No, it doesn't. Not that hard.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll tell you what's on our radars up next.